Okay, Be'ezrat Hashem. So we continue on Magid, portion of the Haggadah. In last year, we finished the Haggadah of Shmuel, which is the first mini Haggadah inside the Magid portion, right? That goes from Manishtana, the question of Manishtana, all the way to Baruch HaMakom Baruch. Now we're going to address the second mini Haggadah, which is the Haggadah of Rav. If you recall, we addressed the machloket there is between Rav and Shmuel, and what is the purpose of Yetziat Mitzrayim? Is Yetziat Mitzrayim the redemption of the body, or is it the redemption of the soul? Is it freedom of physical burden, or is it the freedom from a spiritual burden, right? So Shmuel addresses the body, and that's what we spoke in last year, and Rav addresses the spirit, okay, the ruchaniyut. So and Rav starts with Keneged Arba'a Banim Dibra Torah. So we're referring now to the four types of sons that the Torah speaks about: the Chacham, the Rasha, the Tam, the simple one, and the Alishol, the one that doesn't care even ask.
How did they come up with these four?
So
because they're not opposites.
So first of all, this is a Mechilta, the Rabbi Ishmael. This is a very, very, very old midrash, okay? And we will see that there is four indications in the Torah, okay? So that, and it's very important to actually compare the version of the Mechilta or the version of the Haggadah, okay? By the way, the Yerushalmi also brings it. The Gemara Yerushalmi also brings it in a different version. So, but it's very, very old Ma'amar Chazal. Okay. Now, what I want to do, because in order to really understand properly the message of the four sons, at least on a superficial level, we need to compare the Haggadah, the version of the Haggadah, with the portion of the Torah. Okay? It's very important.
Or the source, where it comes from?
Yes. So, in Parashat Vayetchanan, okay? In Parashat Vayetchanan, in Perek Vav, at the end of Perek Vav, the Pasuk says the following. Ki yish'alcha bincha machar limo. Tomorrow your son will ask you, Ma ha'edot ve'achukim? What are those edot, those witnessing, those chokim, those mishpatim, ve'mishpatim? Asher tzivah Hashem Elokeinu etchem. Right? That's the question. And if you look at the Haggadah, this is the question of the Chacham. Chacham ma'u omer? Ma ha'edot ve'achukim ve'mishpatim asher tzivah Hashem Elokeinu etchem? Very good. Okay, so the question is the same. The answer, however, is completely different. The Torah says, you will tell your son, we're servants of Pharaoh in Egypt. Hashem took us out of Egypt. He gave us miracles. HaKadosh Baruch Hu inflicted punishment upon Mitzrayim, upon Pharaoh. But us, he saved us in order to take us to bring us all the way to Eretz Israel. Hashem gave us the obligation to serve him, to do the mitzvot, in order for him to give us, to benefit us with his abundance of kindness for our entire life, to give us life and bring us the potential to exist, to live. That's the answer the father gives the son based on the Torah. The Torah says your son is going to ask you this. This is what you answer. However, what is the answer of the Haggadah to the Chacham? Ve'afata emorlo ke'ilchot haPesach. You know what? Answer him with the halachot of Pesach. And maftirin achar haPesach afikoman, and go all the way until the halacha of afikoman. That after afikoman we don't eat. How does that answer the question? You know, like the ma'edot ve'achukim. What are all these halachot? You know what? Let's talk about ilchot Pesach. And by the way, after afikoman we don't eat. Right? Very puzzling answer. So although the Haggadah brings the question of the Torah, of the Chacham, but very far from the answer. Okay? And now we're in Parashat Vayetchanan. So in Sefer Devarim at the end of the Torah. If we go then to the Rasha, מה הוא אומר? Rasha, what does he say? מה העבודה הזאת לכם? Right? What is this work you guys are doing? What is this behavior? The pasuk says, והיה כי יאמרו עליכם בניכם מה העבודה הזאת לכם? Same question. ואמרתם, and you know what's the answer you're going to give to your son? זבח פסח הוא, this is the korban Pesach. L'Hashem, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, אשר פסח אל בתי ישראל במצרים. In honor of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who skipped, who passed over the houses of Am Yisrael in Egypt, ונוקפו את המצרים, while he was afflicting plague upon the Egyptians, ואת בתינו הציל. But us, Hashem saved us. ויקוד העם וישתחוו, and the people were so amazed that they accepted, they were in awe of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the answer, right? So what is all this about? What do you mean? Hashem saved us while he was killing the Egyptians. He made sure that to keep us alive. And we have to appreciate it. That's the answer. What's the answer of the Haggadah? Lachem velolo, to you guys and not to him. And because he took himself out of the unity of Am Yisrael by saying, what are you guys doing? Not what are we doing, but what are you guys doing? That means you and not me. That means that him, the Rasha, is not part of the group. Kafar ba'ikar. He's apikorus. Ve'af ata k'et shinav. Give him a punch in the face. Ve'emor lo. Ba'avur ze asa Hashem li b'misetim b'Mitzrayim li ve'lo lo. This is the pasuk says. You know what? Hashem did that to me when he took me out of Egypt. You know what? He took me out, but you, Rasha, he didn't take you out. And you know what? If he was the Rasha, if he was in Egypt, he would not have left out of Egypt. Again, well, you're extreme. You know, the Torah answers with a proper answer, because Hashem, while he was killing the Egyptians, he was saving us. That's an answer. There's a question, there's an answer. Here, you know what? Punch him and tell him that no way. Now, obviously, not physical punching. You have to answer him. You're a pikoruz, a rasha. What type? Again, this is how you answer. Okay. Tam. Now we have the tam. The pasuk says and that's in Parashat Bo in Sefer Shemot. Okay. So way before Devarim. Okay. Mm-hmm. After that's Perek Yud Bet. Perek Yud Gimel, right? So after that, והיה כי ישאלך בנך מחר לאמור מה זאת. Your son will ask you, what's up? What's all this? What's all this? Right? And the time מה הוא אומר? מה זאת? Yeah, same thing. מה זאת? What's all this about? What's all this about? ואמרת אליו וחוזקיה תוציאנו השם ממצרים מבית עבדים. Hashem took us out of Egypt with strength and with full commitment. He took us out of it מבית עבדים from the house of slaves. And here, surprisingly enough, we have the exact same answer. If you look at Tam, the answer we give to the third son, Tam, you know what you will answer him? Fantastic.
Same answer.
Same question, same answer. Does not exist in the Torah. Does not exist. There's no such a son. The only allusion that we have to something like this is there's no questions, right? Because there's no question. So he's not asking anything. But we find an allusion to something maybe addressing that type of son. You will teach your son on that day. Hashem did that to take us out of Egypt, which is exactly, surprisingly, the same answer we answer to the Rasha. Right? What do we tell the Rasha? The same pasuk we take to answer the Rasha is the pasuk we tell the She'eno Yodea Lishmor. שנאמר והכת בנך ברור בעבור זה עשה השם בצאתי ממצרים. So if we put everything back, okay, with everything that we said, number one, we start with the Chacham, while the Torah starts with the Rasha. But we could say they're not all together one after the other. They're spread out in the Torah. We have to give kavod to the Chacham. It's normal that the Chacham starts. Okay? Okay. But we have the same question, complete different answer from the Torah. Then we see in the Haggadah. Same question of the Rasha, completely different answer from the Haggadah than the Torah. Right? A much more radical, intense, and violent answer. Tam, exactly copy-paste from the Torah. You know what? The same
Can't
answer,
find it in the Torah.
Huh?
Can't find it in the Torah.
We cannot find it in the Torah. So we use the same pasuk we use to answer the Rasha is the pasuk we use to answer the She'eno Yodea Lishon, the one that doesn't care asking. Okay? Now, if we dive into, again, we're very superficial, huh? But if we dive into the four sons, there's a few points that we need to address. First of all, what did the Rasha say that is so bad? What is the question of the Rasha? What is the question of the Rasha? The Rasha says, "Ma avodah azot lachem." What's all this about? What's all this avodah? What's all these mitzvot? What's all this? Okay. What does the Chacham ask? מה העדות והחוקים והמשפטים אשר ציווה השם אתכם? What are all those mitzvot, those obligations that Hashem told you guys to do?
Sounds similar.
It's not sounds, it's extremely similar. So why one? Oh, you ask that question, you're a Rasha, and just went, you're a big Chacham. So the difference, if you pay attention, is really in the lashon of the Pesukim. Why? The pasuk in the Torah, it says like this: Ki yish'alcha bincha mahar lemor. In Parashat Vayetchanan, Perek Vav, pasuk Kaf. Ki yish'alcha bincha mahar lemor. Tomorrow your son will ask you. He's going to ask you a question. Ma'idot ve'achukim. But by the Rasha, what does it say? Ve'aya ki yomru alechem benechem. The time will come where your children will tell you. There's a major difference when you ask a question and when you affirm something. The Rasha doesn't ask. He's saying. The Chacham, he's asking question. Major difference. When you
The
ask,
Rasha it's like an accusation.
almost, yes, exactly. The Chacham, why does he ask a question? Now, if you look also at the Pesukim, okay, it's phenomenal. Why? The Pasuk says the following. Yeah. What's the answer we're going to give? From the answer, you understand the depth of the question. Ve'amarta lebincha, you will answer your son. Avadim ayun leparo b'Mitzrayim, vayiten Hashem otot moftim, ve'otanu otzi misham. Hashem took us out of Egypt. You know why? Lema'an hevi otanu latet lanu et haaretz asher nishba'ra latem, to bring us to Eretz Israel, so that we can do the mitzvot, so that He can bless us with life and beracha. The Chacham, what does he want? He wants to be able to see a purpose in what he's doing. The Chacham wants a direction. He wants to be able to dive into the depths of his responsibility in order to understand where he's navigating and to where he needs to get. So what answer do we give him? You know why Hashem did all this? To bring us to Eretz Israel and for us to serve Him to the mitzvot. This is the purpose. So the Baal Haggadah says, so what's the answer? What's the purpose of the question? Bottom line, to do mitzvot, right? That's where the Chacham wants to go. What is the purpose of Yetziat Mitzrayim? In order to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you know why we need to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So that we can bond with Him and we can have a meaningful life. So the Baal Haggadah, where does he jump? Right away to the Hilchot Pessach. You want a real direction. You want Yetziat Mitzrayim. You want to know what's the purpose. Let's learn together. Let's learn Hilchot Pessach. Let's understand what Afikoman is about. Let's dive in the depth of the intricacy of the halacha. And this is what's going to give you a purpose. This is how you're going to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu better. And this is what will bring you the bond that you're looking to connect for. That's one thing. The other thing, okay, and why do we need to go until the Afikoman? The Chacham, what is Afikoman? Afikoman is the last taste of the matzah before we do the katamazon, right? We know that after we eat Afikoman, we're not allowed to eat. You're only allowed to drink water. You cannot have any other taste in your mouth. The Chacham wants to understand, how do I implement actions in my life that will give me a taste of the mitzvot that I can carry with me? Teach me something I can take and taste and feel, something I will bring home, not something that will disappear. Just like the matzah of the Afikoman, we eat it and the taste stays with us long after we finish eating it. The Chacham is someone that knows how to take and learn something and carry it with him and feel it and taste it and appreciate it. That's what the Haggadah answers to the Chacham. However, when it comes to the Rasha, Ma avodah azot lachem. The Rasha, first of all, he says, when you say you don't want to have an interaction, you're stating a fact and you shut the person's mouth. Number one. Number two, I am not open to discussion. When you think you know everything and when you don't allow the communication, you are a Rasha. That's the definition of a Rasha. Someone that is not willing to interact and communicate. Number one. And that's the pasuk. Ve'omru lachem. They will tell you. The day will come where your children will tell you. They're not going to ask you. They will tell you. It's almost a position of strength that the child takes against everybody to impose his de'ah, his vision on things, without any doubt that he's right. And there's no room to interact. And what is, how does he identify? How does he identify the Yetziat Mitzrayim, the Leil Seder, the mitzvot of Pesach? What does he say? Ma ha'avodah hazot. What is that work? What does it mean? What is this heavy burden that you guys carry? It's not, tell me about the mitzvot, the mishpatim. Ma avodah hazot. What is all this toil about? Another major difference there is with the Chacham is the Chacham, the Orchot Chaim says, what does the Chacham say? The Chacham says, Ma ha'edot ve'achukim asher tziva Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem our God etchem. What did Hashem, my God, teach you guys? But the Rasha doesn't say that. He says, Ma avodah hazot lachem. What's all this about? Why toil? So the answer to the Rasha is an answer that is not really answering him. We're not answering him. What are we telling him? From the way he's talking, you know, not only the tone, because the tone is very tricky. The tone is very tricky. Why is it very tricky? If you look at the wording of the Torah, the Torah use a word ve'omru lecha amira, not ve'dabru, not lashon kasha, lashon raka. Ve'aya ki yomru alechem. The day will come and they will tell you in a soft-spoken way, but in a way that there's no way to answer. Right. So there is a very manipulative approach to the Rasha. The Rasha will say things in a way that you cannot even answer. He will find the wording to put you against the wall and not be able to interact at all and respond. Not possible. So that's the manipulation aspect of the Rasha. Then we have the formulation of the word of the Rasha. Definition of a Rasha, we don't communicate. There's no communication between us. Finished. I say things and that's it. I know it better. So if you're making a statement, there's no room for an answer. So I cannot answer you, right?
So you're not looking for an answer.
He's not looking for an answer. So what do we say? We say, okay, let's analyze the content of what he's saying. When he says Ma avodah lachem, what is this you guys carry? Are you guys? That means that you're not with us. You're not with us. That means that when Hashem took us out of Egypt, He did not take you out of Egypt. That means that if you were in Egypt, you would have stayed in Egypt. Very good. But everything I said is wrong. Why? Because I used the word, the one wrong word. In the Haggadah, it doesn't say you. It says him. Look at what the Haggadah says. Lachem velolo. He says, Ma avodah hazeh lachem. What is this toll that you guys carry? So we should have answered him. Lachem velo lecha. What? You're talking to us. Us and not you? We don't say us and not you. We said not us and not him. And we said, and if he was in Egypt, he would not have been saved. Why do we say him? Why don't we say you? We're talking to you. You made a statement. I'm answering you. No, you know what? Instead of talking to you, I'm saying, you're speaking to him. Say, and yeah, he says that. So this is what would happen to him. This is one of the most fundamental lessons of chinuch, of education, that we learn from the Haggadah. Even the Rasha, do not confront him and do not belittle him. Send a message going around. He's very smart. make the point. You know what? The Rasha, if he was here, this is what would have happened to him. I didn't call you a Rasha. You're my son. You're at my table. I love you. And I address to you a statement, although you're not expecting anything from me. You not expecting anything. But you know what? My answer is to the Rasha, not to you. Because you deep inside, I know you're a tzaddik. I know you can come back. Because the Reshaim at the time of Egypt, they actually did not leave Egypt. That's it. They were condemned. You're never condemned. There's always room for teshuvah. There always room to come back. This is why the formulation of the answer to the Rasha is not talking to him directly. It's talking about the Rasha, not to the Rasha. Very important. When you face a child and there's something difficult and there's a statement that you need to make and you don't want to confront the child or you don't want to point your finger at the child and break him or insult him or hurt him, you need to send the message from the third person. And he will be smart enough to learn the lesson and internalize it on one end, but also be sensitized by the fact that you left the door open for him.
If you embarrass anybody, you put them in a state of mind and a state of emotions that they can't learn.
That's right. That's right. So here we see something magnificent about the chinuch on one end, and what the Baal Haggadah is coming to teach us. So yes, it's true. והיה כי יאמרו לכם ואמרת זבח פסח הוא להשם אשר פסח על בתי בני ישראל במצרים וכולי וכולי. The Torah has an answer, but it has an answer to the Rasha. Here I'm not answering the Rasha. I'm answering my son that speaks like a Rasha. Tam, very simple. Mazot, what's all this about? The Tam Chachamim tell us is somebody that cares enough to ask, just to ask, just to say that he asked something. Say he said something. Hashem saved us with such dedication, and such involvement. You should also involve yourself. It's not enough just to ask to check the box. So I see that there's a disinterest. You're just checking the box by asking a question without too much effort, without too much engagement. Let me show you how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu is engaged in our lives to stimulate your own engagement. Tam. V'she'eno yodea lish'ol is the hardest one. He's the one that don't even ask anything. He's the one you don't know where he stands. You don't know where he is. And what's the answer to that? Rashi says, מה זה והיגדת? והיגדת means, it comes from the word agada. להגיד, agada זה to say a lot of words, to explain very carefully with many different examples, only in order to bring the heart of the person closer to you. Agada shemoshchin halev. Agada, words that awake the heart. And this is the most difficult. Why? Because the she'eno yodea lish'ol, the one that doesn't ask, you don't know where to take him. You don't know how to approach. Somebody asks you a question, it's frontal. You know what you're dealing with. But she'eno yodea lish'ol, you don't know what to expect. You don't know anything. So you have to start being very rich in explanations, in stories, in approaches, all angles open, just so that you can slowly penetrate his heart and bring him closer. The Sfat Emet, this is the she'eno yodea lish'ol. The Sfat Emet says something phenomenal. He says the Baal Haggadah brings the 4 kids, not because there's 4 types of kids, because all 4 of them reside in our own essence. We are inside of us, the Tam, the Rasha, the Chachar, and the one that doesn't care. And the Sfatimen tells us the Agadah comes to reveal inside of us the awareness of the strength of the Chacham that's in us, the danger of the Rasha, the weakness of the Tam, and the void of the She'eno Yodea Lishor. There is not a guy that's only Chacham. There's not a guy that's only Rasha. There's not a guy that's She'eno Yodea Lishor. It's a mix. And they all exist inside of us. And it's our responsibility to know how to address each situation and each awakening depending on which type of son reacts to a situation that we are facing. An amazing, amazing, amazing insight. Obviously, there is another very important lesson that we learn from this, is that there is no one universal answer. We could have said, you know what, we have the Chacham, the Rasha, the Tav, they're all here, and we could have given one answer, universal answer to everyone. No. Each child is different. Each child needs the proper, unique, custom-made attention, answer, whether it's emotionally, whether it's time investment, whether it's money investment, whether it's attention. Each child needs a specific, tailor-made ecosystem. That's how you're mechanech children. And this is what the Baal Agadah is coming to tell us. And the most important is that the leader, the head of the mishpacha, has to make sure they all sit at his table. They are all here with us, united together.
Through these practices.
I'm sorry?
Through these practices.
Yes. Through his own internalization and work of his own 4 sons that live within him. Absolutely. And the answer continues. Yachol merosh chodesh. And here we have some confusion. What does that have to do with anything? Yachol merosh chodesh, Talmud Omar. Bayom ha'u, bayom ha'u, yachol be'od yom. There's a whole drasha. To finally says, you know, when we talk about all these halachot Pesach, when do we have all this interaction? You talk, all this comes together when matzah and maror are in front of you. That's when all these different vibes and vapors are coming out. That's when all this interaction comes to life. What does that mean? A person is confronted to his true as different essences and to the challenge of different interaction with children when he's confronted to times that are good and bad. When everything is good or everything is bad, you never really have the proper interaction. When everything is bad, you see only the negativity and the pressure from people. When everything is good, nobody cares to share. It's only when there's good and bad that you can start getting to know people, identify the Rasha, identify the Tzaddik, interact with She'eno Yodea Lishol. So come Chachamim and tell us, if you want to be able to grow, if you want to be able to interact with your children, with your beloved one, you always have to approach life with in front of you the beracha and the challenge. Again, we're going back to this paradox that needs to coexist and benefits the environment at home. If you're only in the good or you're only stuck in the bad, you can never bring out all this. You can never get to the Manishtana. You can never get into the Dalet Banim, into the 4 sons. Only בשעה שמעשה ומרור מונחים לפניך. always compare the good with the bad. There's good, remember the bad. There's bad, remember the good. There's a purpose to everything.
On the timeline.
Yes. Yes. It's always bringing this comparison and coexistence of the two, and how both work hand in hand in the growth of a person's life, which is a tremendous musa. People are stuck with negativity. Others are utopic and live in la la land. No, you want to be real with yourself and with the people around you. Show that everything can coexist, that you reflect on everything. And comes now all this avodah to a point where we need to address where this impact happens. Okay, so I do all this. What will be the positive impact? Where will the growth really happen inside me? And that's the next portion of the Haggadah. Mitechila of the Avodah Zarah. Ayu Avotenu, our forefathers used to be of the Avodah Zarah. And Hashem brought us closer to the Torah. Shene'emar. And he brings the pasuk of Yehoshua. Vayomer Yehoshua el kol ha'am, כה אמר Hashem Elohim Yisrael, בעבר הנהר ישבו כבותיכם. Hashem said, your ancestors sit across the river Terach, the father of Abraham and of Nahor. They used to do Avodah Zarah, and I took Abraham, and I crossed the river. Abraham gave birth to Yitzhak. Yitzhak gave birth to Yaakov and Esav. I gave to Esav Har Seir, Yaakov, and his kids I brought to Egypt. And what does that have to do with anything with Pesach? What are you talking to me about? Terach, Abraham, I'm talking about Yetziat Mitzrayim. This is what we're focused. The answer is the following. Yetziat Mitzrayim is about the spiritual redemption. It's about hope and belief that you can be in the darkest place spiritually and still come out alive and shine. The biggest proof that darkness could bring life to light is Terach. Terach, Oved Avodah Zarah, serving idolatry, him, his father, his grandfather, his great-grandfather, for generations. And from nowhere, Abraham came out. Abraham raised in a home of idolatry, brother of an a worshiper of idolatry. Gives life to Yitzhak. Yitzhak again, Esav, idolatry, Avodah Zarah, Rasha. But who comes? Yaakov comes. And you know what? And he didn't stop. They went to Egypt. And in Egypt, they were of the Avodah Zarah also. But you know what happened? They got out. A tremendous, powerful message. Comes the Baal HaGadah and tells us, when you are in touch with yourself, when you are honest with yourself, when you interact, when you communicate, when you know how to build relationships, you find a way out to your misery. Darkness comes to an end. You can stop it. You can finish it. You can control the destiny of your beracha. When the challenge will finish and when your beracha will start. And this is the message. This is the spiritual freedom. This is the Yetziat Mitzrayim of the soul. When you're stuck somewhere, emotionally, when you're stuck somewhere, spiritually, the Yetzer Hara, we said it many times, will remind you all the averot, all the sins, all the bad behavior you did all your life. And say, who are you fooling? Tomorrow you're going to wake up, you're going to be the same Rasha you were yesterday. So suddenly today you want to be a big tzaddik. The Torah comes, the Baal Haggadah comes and says, let me bring you a big proof. Terah brought to life to Abraham. He brought Yitzhak. And even though the circumstances, the brothers, the environment, all of the Avodah Zarah, everything against the shine of life. Well, you know what? They wanted it and it happened. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us to Egypt and we got out of it. We always get out of the darkness. It's a question of time. We are the descendants of Abraham, of Yitzhak and Yaakov. There is no being stuck. There is no condemnation. Ma pitom. We go out. This is the freedom of the soul. And this is how we celebrate Pesach. This is Rav. You're stuck spiritually. Chaz v'shalom. It's in your hands. Stand up. Start your life spiritually. Make your goals. You are free. Nobody's stopping you except for yourself. But it's all about the outlook. It's all about the interaction with yourself and with the people around you. Do you judge? You don't judge. Even the Rasha, we don't judge. We will teach him indirectly. We will speak properly. Communication, understanding, introspection leads to the freedom of the soul. When we recognize that this is what happened on Pesach, this is the koach Hashem gave us when we left Mitzrayim. Baruch shomer avtachato. Blessed is the one that kept his promise. שהקדוש ברוך הוא חישב את הקץ לעשות כמה שנאמר לאברהם אבינו בברית בין הבתרים. Hashem promised to Avraham Avinu. He says, you know what? Your descendants will be servants in a land that's not theirs for 400 years. And they will suffer and they will cry. But don't worry, I will save them and I will punish the one that inflicted pain upon Am Yisrael. The Brit Ben Abetarim comes the moment where we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for giving us this beracha and this promise and this vow that the light will always win. There is always a way out. There is no way we stay stuck ever. So Vadai Baruch HaMakom. And you know when he vowed, when Avraham Avinu chose HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we relate to that vow, to Avraham Avinu. And we say, thank you, Hashem, that for 4,000 years, this vow continues. No matter how much darkness there is, the light always prevails. The emet always prevails. And that's what we say, Vehi, and that vow that Hashem made to Avraham Avinu in the Brit HaBetarim, this is what we held on to throughout the generations. We think there was only one that tried to kill us. For thousands of years, we have Paro. For thousands of years, we have Imashemo, Rasha, Hitler. For thousands of years, we had Elizabeth. You think you're the only one? This promise that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made, this vow that he made to Abraham, is what is continuing to protect us. It's a promise that we carry, not only as a nation, but personally. And when we're able to tap to that vow, you know who takes care of us? It's Hashem himself. We don't need nobody else. You think you're going to take me down? No. I am connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I choose the freedom of the soul. How? The introduction that we gave. Can you get the Arba'a Banim? This interaction, this avodah, triggers a connection to Hashem and turns on the vow of Hashem in our own life. In our own life. Here is a statement that we make the Leil HaSeder. Hey, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you know, close to 4,000 years ago, this is what you promised to my forefather, to my tate, to Avraham Avinu. And I know that tonight, this promise is with me, and I'm carrying it. So tell me, this is not Leil Shimurim. It's not a night of protection. When you have such a connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not a night of simcha. We don't say Baruch HaMakom Baruch Hu. Baruch Shomer Avtachato. Badai. That's the Hallel that we make to Hashem. Thank you for believing in us for all this time, for all these generations. Another super high that we celebrate the freedom of the spirit, the freedom of the connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the blessing of this vow that is always with us at all time. And all it takes is the proper communication, understanding, with ourselves, with our surrounding, and no judgment, even to the one that looks in your eyes like a rasha. You don't judge, nobody will judge you. But not only nobody will judge you, but you will see the light when everybody sees darkness, because you don't judge. Judgment brings darkness. You don't judge, you bring light. You bring light. That light means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you. This is how we complete. This is how we complete the second Haggadah, the Haggadah of Rav. On another super high, this time, not from the freedom of the body, not from the freedom of the emotion, but from the freedom of the spirit and of the soul. From this, and we praise and we bless and we cherish this connection that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is again the Brit Ben Abetarim, the vow to always protect us no matter where we are. And this power that He has given us to control when we end the darkness and when we bring the light.
Moving the progression forward.
Exactly.
First it was awareness. Now it's, understanding the control. And then we go forward even further. That's right. And the next one is going to be the Haggadah of the Lamdanut, the control, and how do you build the intellect in order to maneuver and dance in the intricacies of life, in order to be able to gain the control and continue to keep the control of the light. That's the next Haggadah that we're going to learn. Be'ezrat Hashem. Beautiful.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Slowly.
Thank you. Andy. Thank you. Hi, Andy. I didn't even see you there. You snuck in.